Few things are as structurally important to a nation as dams, especially in times of war. For that reason, structures like dams are protected by the Geneva Convention, stating that when their destruction amounts to civilian risk, the action itself could be considered a war crime. Yet the Nova Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine was just destroyed, and with it, causing the potential displacement of hundreds of thousands of citizens, with possible impacts on Ukraine's nuclear power infrastructure. With some describing the event as the most damaging single event of the Ukraine war so far, with worst case scenario modelling predicting the potential flooding of half of nearby city Kherson, what impacts will this event have on the war, and is Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant safe? If you want to see more content on energy, geopolitics and our world, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to be alerted of future uploads. The Nova Kakhovka Dam is located on the Dnipro river, a major transboundary river that flows south through Ukraine and drains into the Black Sea. The river is important in facilitating trade as several major cities are located on its banks, and also homes 6 Soviet-era hydroelectric dams, of which the Nova Kakhovka Dam is the most southern. Since the Russian invasion, however, the river has become a key divisive line between the Ukrainian territory and Russian-occupied land, often marking the boundary between the two. The Russian-occupied southern region includes the control of the Nova Kakhovka Dam and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, of which both were captured early on in the conflict. In the early hours of June 6th, the Nova Kakhovka Dam was hit, causing a breach in its upper structure, allowing the current to flow more freely downstream. Right now, Ukraine is blaming Russia for the attack, whilst the Kremlin is blaming Ukrainian forces. First and foremost, the attack will take a huge toll on civilians in the conflict zone. Up to 80 towns and villages are at risk of flooding in the region, with modelling by a Swedish hydrological engineering company showing that in a worst case scenario, the nearby town of Kherson, homing nearly 300,000 people, would be severely flooded, potentially resulting in the loss of human life. The model shows that water would take approximately 19 hours to reach Kherson, allowing for some time for evacuation, which is underway. Thankfully, however, reports state that the main structure of the dam and the reservoir itself are intact, therefore these worst case scenario predictions may not become a reality. This event also has wider implications for both Ukrainian and Russian occupied territories. The dam is vital for channeling water to Russian-occupied southern Ukraine and Crimea, in which 1.7 million cubic meters of water was supplied to the region daily. Now that this water will not be flowing south, these populations will have significantly restricted access to fresh water, whilst agricultural lands in the south could suffer without a supply of this fresh water. The water has also damaged bridges downstream whilst widening the river, making it much more difficult for a Ukrainian counter-offensive in the region or Russian troops to move northwards. The river has made this region historically strategic, with Russian forces withdrawing from Kherson in November of 2022 due to fear of becoming isolated on the West Bank. A compromised Kakhovka Dam at this time would have certainly added to the pressure of Russian troop isolation. Another complication of this event is the close proximity of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to the burst dam. Whilst the plant sits upstream of the Nova Kakhovka Dam, there is no possibility that the site will be flooded, but instead it faces another threat. Zaporizhzhia is Europe's largest nuclear power plant, housing 6 reactors with a total output of 5,700 megawatts. Since September of 2022, however, all reactors have been disconnected from the power grid, as the plant was shut down as a safety measure in light of the conflict in the surrounding area. Whilst the reactors are shut down, the site still contains spent nuclear fuel pools and reactor safety systems that require large sources of water to cool and function. Usually this water is sourced from the Kakhovka reservoir, but this water is currently being drained due to the destruction of the dam, prompting many to become anxious as to where the power plant will source its water from now. 5 of the 6 reactors are in cold shutdown, where water simply needs to be recirculated to keep them cool. However, the 6th reactor is in what's called a warm shutdown phase. This means that it is still producing energy, but at a fraction of what it does when operational. And according to Mark Wenman, a nuclear materials expert at Imperial College London, this means that the risk of an incident occurring is very low. The International Atomic Energy Agency has also stated that the situation poses no immediate risks, whilst Energoatom, the operator of the plant, wrote that the station's cooling pond, which houses water, is full. Whilst initial claims of threat to the plant may have been overblown, the reservoir may only be able to supply water to the plant for a few more days, meaning that the operators are still faced with the issue of finding alternative water sources to supply the plant. A speaker from the IAEA stated that as the reactors are shut down, water from the large cooling ponds could serve as a more medium-term source of water. But had any of the reactors been operational, this case may have been far more serious. The situation in Ukraine is one that will unfold over the coming days, whilst no doubt the water situation at the Zaporizhzhia plant will be closely monitored. But the attack on a key piece of infrastructure like the Kakhovka site is yet another example of how far factions are willing to push the boundaries of war. Boundaries that will inevitably find their breaking point. Thank you for watching Olive Stripe Productions. If you enjoyed this video and want to see future videos on a wide range of topics covering energy, geopolitics, and our world, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to be notified of future videos.